Hey, Facebook family and YouTube subbies, what's up? Happy Thursday. Welcome to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks live at 5 p.m. on the West Coast. So I know a lot of my West Coast family haven't made it in yet. You guys are probably still stuck in traffic, but I'm hoping that those of you in different later time zones are at home, all settled in, have had your dinner, and are ready to hear the truth. As you come into the room, hey, who just joined me? Melvin, welcome, welcome. I'm going to have to start creating a first person through the door situation. What can I give you? Um, Melvin, I want to just say thank you to you, Reggie, and Phoenix, the first three through the door. Can you guys uh, go over to my inbox when we're all done and just give me a mailing address? I just want to send you a little token of my appreciation for being the early bird and being first in. So, Melvin, Reggie, and Phoenix, I need a mailing address for you guys. Um, I'm not going to be stalking you. So if you just want to send me like a P.O. box, that works. Um, I'll send you something there. I'm sharing this on my timeline with my other pages. Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, my public page, and retired LAPD Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, my first and original fan page, if you will, that was created. So for those of you who can't get in here on my personal page because I'm at my limit, and that may change a little later today because there seems to be a little back and forth, a little pushing and shoving going on with somebody right now. And so we may be creating space on my personal page. I may be, I may have room for some additions dependent on what happens later. Hey, Sherry, what's up? Present and accounted for. I appreciate you. So, listen, I don't know about you guys, but I am still trying to get right with this time change. I feel like it's dark at 3 o'clock over here and it just messes up my whole situation. And so I don't know if anyone else is suffering like I am. I find myself up in the middle of the night. Thankfully, I don't have a job. And sometimes it seems like I don't have a life, so I can take those much needed cat naps during the day. But I'm having a hard time, family. I'm up at 2 o'clock, ugh, and then this week maybe you guys are suffering the same way that I am, in that I've had to get up at 6 o'clock every morning as though it were my job, because I'm tuning in for this impeachment hearing. And ooh wee, what a week it has been. I have thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed the fireworks. And I mean, they brought it home today. Dr. Fiona Hill, ooh wee, she is no joke. I mean, she is about that life. She was clear, she was firm, she was unwavering in her position. And it was hard to argue. It was hard to argue with her. She knows her stuff. She is certainly an expert in her field. And at some point, during the testimony today, you could just see the counselor, Mr. Castor, and Jimbo Baggins and little David. They just almost had to throw their hands up in the air because they didn't know what to do with her. And so, Jim likes to do a lot of yelling and screaming, as if somehow when he just yells, somebody's supposed to get scared about that. He really needs to spend a little more time trying to figure out what is he going to do when it comes time for him to speak on that molestation that was going on that college campus, where he was the assistant coach and he looked the other way. Yeah, he might want to spend a little more time on that. Hey, Ruben. Hey, Lisa. Thank you for joining me. So listen, where do I start? Where do I start? Let me introduce myself for my newcomers, those who are joining me for the first time today, who are just getting to know me. I am a retired 20-year veteran sergeant of the Los Angeles Police Department, having spent all 20 years in patrol, worked all 4 geographic bureaus within the city of Los Angeles. And for those of you who don't know, the city is divided up into bureaus. Central Bureau, which is basically downtown Los Angeles, and 4 or 5 other divisions that are very near downtown. Um, Valley Bureau, which is everything north of the Santa Monica Freeway, and that includes San Fernando Valley and some of the other high rent districts, if you will. And then there's West Bureau, which includes Venice Beach area, which is where I worked, and South Bureau, which is south of the Santa Monica Freeway, AKA the hood. So I worked in at least one division in all four of those bureaus. So I'd like to think I'm very well rounded. I know a thing or two about a thing or two, right? And based on my lived experiences, firstly, as a Black woman, secondly, as a mother of four sons, and then lastly, as a police sergeant, I come to you just to discuss things that are occurring in the news, trending topics as it relates to police interactions with community members, what I think may have gone wrong when we hear about things that lead to uses of deadly force or great bodily injury, assaults, attacks at the hands of police officers. I talk a little bit about the tactics because a lot of times, most times in my mind, it's generally the tactics that the officers used just before they put hands on you that were problematic. And so we see time and time again officers creating a situation to put hands on you. And then, you know, shoot, when that don't work, they just straight out lie. We know that they will lie. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what happens when you get caught lying, because there's a lot of that going on in a couple of different places. So I'll be sharing my thoughts about that with you as well. And then in addition to me being here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, I have an Instagram and Twitter account, SGT Cheryl Dorsey. Follow me there. I have a website, www.sgtcheryldorsey.com. You can go there and find out what's going on in the life of Sergeant Dorsey. You can also read the first chapter of my autobiography, Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate. Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate is a revised version of my first book, which was Black and Blue, The Creation of a Manifesto. In both, I chronicle my 20-year career on the Los Angeles Police Department. What's different between the first one, Creation of a Manifesto, Volume 1, and the second version, Volume 2, Creation of a Social Advocate, is that I started talking about the advocacy work that I got involved in 2014. My book was first published in 2013, and I had no idea that Mike Brown, Ezell Ford, Sandra Bland, Sam DeBose, Walter Scott, Floyd Dent, I could rattle off a litany of names, had no idea that stuff was going to happen. But I realized that I was very uniquely positioned because I had done the job. And what a lot of police chiefs want to say to the community when they question use of force that seems unreasonable and unnecessary is, but you never wore the uniform, and you certainly shouldn't be questioning our tactics because you don't know what it is. I do. And a lot of times what I was seeing was problematic. And so I speak to those issues here. And I also speak to those issues weekly on my podcast, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks. So if you don't know, now you know, you need to go on over and subscribe to Sergeant Dorsey Speaks wherever it is you get your podcasts, because a lot of times, most times, information that I share with you here will be different. If I think the story is really newsworthy, I'll repeat it in a couple of different places because I know that not everyone is on all mediums. I know that the youngsters are not even on Facebook, is what I'm hearing from my millennials and others. And so I talk about different things on my podcast than I do on my YouTube channel. And I'm about to start to branch out and go on over to Instagram. I've been fighting it, family, because another social medium, really? But I had the opportunity to go on Instagram last week with a colleague who invited me to come on live with him. And we were just kind of chopping it up over there for the folks talking about the things that I talk about here. And so I know some of it is redundant. I know some of you are on Instagram, but then there are those who are not here, but are there. So I'm gonna be going live on Instagram, family. I got to figure out which day I'm going to do it because, yeah, it's a lot. So keep me in prayer. Hey, Olivia, what's up, sister girl? I appreciate you. Ruben, what are you asking me? Are you speaking on the cop shooting a supervisor? Oh, and are you working on your movie? Okay, so I have a gentleman, a writer producer, and he'll probably beat me up if he's not on here, so he won't know. But I do have a writer producer friend, and we've been working together for about a year, and it's a process, family. He has been, because I can't take on anything else. I am trusting and leaving it in his capable hands to meet, network, talk to, shop uh, with others in the industry with regards to, he really, really is keen on writing something relative to my autobiography. And so I'm leaving it in his capable hands. And, what's for me is for me, and what's for him is for us, I think. So, yeah, Ruben, and, I'm believing it's going to happen. I'm just go ahead and speak on it and speak it into existence. I just couldn't tell you when. We've got the names of some folks that we are have shared with some other folks, and I got to be real cryptic about it. But folks are talking. Let me just say that. And as soon as I am able to share more about that with you, I'll share more about that with you. I appreciate you asking. Hey, Randy. Hello. How are you, Marie? I appreciate you guys for joining me. Oh, Lawrence, you said come on over to Instagram. Okay, so you're one who's here, there, and everywhere. I'll see you on Instagram. I just got to figure out a day and a time to get her done, Lawrence. But I'm coming, and then to be honest with you, the other dilemma is I'm gonna just say it, you guys. I am not real tech savvy when it comes to all this stuff. I'm not just gray. Because I like gray hair. I earned this, and it's so funny because it's at least once a week I'll have a young person ask me, they'll say, "Oh my God, I love your hair. What color is that?" And I just have to tell them, this is the color you get when you've been around the sun a couple of revolutions, right? So I'm old school. If I didn't want you to laugh at me, I'd show you that I've probably got somewhere in here a rotary phone. This whole social media situation is wearing me out. And I gotta, make sure that I'm knowledgeable, if you will, about going live on Instagram. I think the premise is the same. I'm not really sure, but I've been here on Facebook for a long, long time, and I'm very comfortable here. I dabble on Twitter just a little, and yeah, so I got to get comfortable, and I got to get good, and I got to make sure that I know what it is that I'm doing when I go live over there, so that I don't make an ass of myself like little David Nunez did today. So I'll let you know. I'll keep you posted. So anyway, okay, so here's the deal. Here's what I do. You guys know I provided insider's perspective, and I pull the covers back and expose that thin blue line. I talk to you about police policy, police training, police culture in a way that is undeniable, irrefutable, and certainly credible, right? I'm going to be doing that today. And I do this because, listen, my goal at the end of the day is for everyone to walk away from that police encounter the same way it started. I want you to all go home safely. And so, that's part and parcel as to, why I come to you, because, I want you to be good at the end of that police encounter. So if you see value and appreciate what I say, I know you do because you tell me. But you can support the show, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, on my Cash app, Sergeant Dorsey Speaks, or you can go to my website, www.sgtcheryldorsey.com, and you can purchase my book, Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate. I will send you a signed copy, and you can support me and receive an amazing, amazing peek into what makes me crazy. How did I get to be this thing that I am? I talk very candidly, very openly about my life before LAPD, as well as the things that I went through, and how I got this hard shell on my little turtle back. I talk about all of that, the good, the bad, and some of it, it is what it is. But I had to be honest. I had to, I had to put it all out there. And partly I did it because, you guys don't understand, how some of these people come at me. And what I didn't want anybody to think they were doing was outing me about something that happened in my personal or professional life. So the stuff that was good, I talk about it. And the stuff that was just, ugh, I talk about that too. So www.sgtcheryldorsey.com. Read the first chapter of Black and Blue, The Creation of a Social Advocate. And if you want a copy, click on the purchase button and I'll send you one signed by my own little hand. Okay. I want to welcome some of my new subbies. Hummingbird 399, Nathan Forrest, Marissa, and Jared Ware. Welcome, welcome. And I'm not going to rattle off a whole bunch of names because if I do that, then I'm going to ruffle some feathers. But I did want to at least say welcome to my new subbies. Thank you. I appreciate you. And tell a friend. Bring 2 or 3 over, if you will. Real quick, I don't know if you guys know about this. I saw this and, I'm not seeing a whole lot about it, but Mrs. Obama has an initiative where she's trying to encourage young people to get registered to vote. And according to the story that I read, it says 2 out of 3 young people are not registered. So there's something called We Need All Vote. Oh no. When We All Vote. I think that's what it is. When, WhenWeallVote.org. That's an initiative by Michelle Obama, my first forever lady, to try to encourage young people to register and listen. We need you guys in a real way. We need everybody to get on board. Anybody but, right? We've already had some great accomplishments in Kentucky, in Virginia, and in Louisiana over the last few weeks. And so we just need to keep that momentum going because I think on the heels of the shellacking that the GOP took this week and last week, they're going to try some stuff that, probably would blow your hair back. So need everybody registered and need you guys out there voting, because if you don't vote, then you can't complain. And there is way too much at stake in this next election. God bless her, RBG. I hope she lives another 87 years, but, she's not. And I think there are probably at least two justices that could be appointed in the next 4 years, based on health and, age and all of that. So 2 more conservative appointments to the Supreme Court would mean for us, people that look like me and you, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. It's a wrap for me. It's a wrap for our kids and our grandkids. So, if for no other reason, SCOTUS, Supreme Court nominees, attorney generals, you see what kind of damage Fred Flintstone is doing. Yeah, just the president alone is not the only very, very important reason to vote, but that's one as well. So whenweallvote.org, initiative by former First Lady Michelle Obama. Check it out and tell your young people we need them. Now, my first story involves the girlfriend of Philando Castile. Some of you may have seen this. She's already received a pretty hefty settlement. Good for her. But she's now suing, I believe it's the mayor over there in Minneapolis, because he made some comment when she was in litigation with regards to her settlement money and how it would be gone in a year because she's going to smoke it up on using crack. Well, I guess because she got a little jingle in her pocket now, she was able to go get another attorney. And so she about to get some more Minneapolis money. She's suing the governor. I mean, she's suing the mayor over there. Tom McBroom is the name of the, oh, no. Take that back. Yeah, Tom McBroom. He's the mayor. Now, the deal with Tom McBroom, before he became the mayor, he was a Rice County Sheriff deputy. And he got demoted by the sheriff then at the time. And so because of some misconduct that he had been involved in, and then he ran for mayor. What the hell? I don't know what the demographics are over in Minneapolis. What were y'all thinking about when y'all voted for him for mayor after he had said all that outrageous stuff with regards to Philando Castile as a deputy sheriff? And then you guys make him a mayor? Ooh. Anyway, he was elected to mayor in 2018. And so, because he made that derogatory, defamatory comment, Diamond Reynolds is her name. Philando Castile's girlfriend is suing him. So good luck. There was another mass shooting. We don't even hear about this stuff, and maybe I don't hear about it because I don't watch local news. I pretty much only watch cable news, and there's only like really one or two cable channels that I trust to give me the real. But maybe this was a big deal, and maybe you know about it. In Fresno, there was a party that was held in the backyard last weekend. It was a group of Asians who were watching a football game, and somebody snuck into the backyard and just started shooting. And in the midst of all that, there were 10 people who were shot. So we know anything over 3 makes it legally, technically, definable as a mass shooting. So 10 folks were shot, and 4 of the 10 died. And everybody in that backyard was Asian, and they were all men between 25 and 30 years old. The other 6 are expected to survive and are in various states of recovery. So, it's just really, hey, Tonda, it's really a sad state of affairs that, you have to just be mindful and know where an alternate exit route is everywhere you go. Now, listen, I don't know about you guys, but I kind of quit going to house parties a long time ago just because of that, right? Because you don't know who else might show up uninvited or who might show up uninvited, get asked to leave, and then come back. Now, I don't know if the people, because it hasn't been reported, whether or not the person that may have been involved in the shooting, and they're not really saying much about it yet, too new. If this person was known to them, or were they just an opportunist? Did they just see a bunch of people having a good time and just decided to come back and shoot up the party? I don't know. But, a conversation, much like what to do when you leave the house if you are a parent of, Black boys, Black young men, you need to have a conversation with all your family whenever you leave, wherever you go. Walmart, the theater, Costco. Yeah, we gotta have a plan B, y'all. So just be having those conversations, because when it goes down, you don't want to be panicky and trying to figure out what the heck to do. You kind of want to have a little bit of an idea, and you definitely want to make sure your young people are thinking about this, because most times I think they think they're invincible, and so we want them to be prepared. It's our responsibility to do that for them. There is a sheriff who recently demoted a couple of deputies for inaction during a deadly shooting. Now, this is kind of weird because these 2 deputies were they were working security at a party. And, for my law enforcement family, how you guys like to work these, secondary jobs, off-duty jobs, we call them, security, right? Because it's usually easy money, right? And it's not a problem until it's a problem. Well, these two off-duty deputies were at a party, and when I tell you it was a problem, yeah, the shit went real sideways. It was a sergeant and a captain. Now, I don't know why this captain is working off duty unless they don't pay their law enforcement officers very much. I'll share the link with you. But what happened is they were at this party, and then 2 guys got into it at the party, and somebody came running outside because that's where the deputies were. They were, posted up outside the party, and said, hey, there's a fight. And before the deputies could get back in there to see what the heck was going on with this fight, shots rang out, and somebody got shot. And when the deputies, the captain and the sergeant, because listen, they wasn't there for that, right? They, a captain, when was the last time he did police work? Probably been a while. Um, don't know their ethnicity, don't know what they look like, don't know what kind of physical shape they were in. But these two said, uh, exit stage left, and they ran. They ran out of the party. And so, because they ran out of the party, gentleman by the last name of Salazar, who was trying to stop this fight, wound up getting shot and died. So when the sheriff got word of this, he was hot, because he said, deputies are not expected to do that kind of stuff on duty. Now, I don't know about off duty, but it sounds like he's making it same. He said that they're not, they're expected to not flee. It was a coward move. And on top of that, they didn't even stick around to try to render aid to the victim. Don't know if it would have made any difference. And then at some point, officers started showing up. And so there was a lieutenant who showed up. This lieutenant was unnamed, and he got caught up in this, quote, cowardly behavior, according to the sheriff. And so the lieutenant, they broke him down 2 ranks. They broke him down to a deputy, and the captain and the sergeant are expected, if they haven't already been fired, they will be fired, according to the sheriff. He said they have a constitutional duty to protect. It's mandated by law. And so I shared the link with you. You can click on it and see where exactly this occurred, because it escapes me right now. But what's kind of interesting about all of this is that this particular sheriff, his last name is Hill. And sheriff, he wasn't playing with these people. And it just feels kind of personal that he would take this kind of action. He said that he's going to personally fire the captain and the sergeant. He is not going to allow them to resign. So that sounds kind of personal to me. And as I read on in the story, and you can too, you can see that this sheriff, he don't have clean hands either. He's been involved in some shenanigans, because every sheriff was once a deputy, right? I don't know if all of the bad deeds that he had been involved in happened when he was a deputy, or if it happened, after he became sheriff. But he had been involved in some misconduct himself, and because of that, he seems to be very, very heavy-handed with his deputies. And so the article talks about a couple of things that the sheriff himself had been involved in. I guess in 2015, he accidentally shot some woman. He was practicing some kind of, suspect getaway, right? Front gun takeaway. He thought he had a training weapon, and he didn't. He had a gun that had live ammo in it, and he wound up critically wounding somebody who was a friend, a lady that's described as a friend and a real estate agent. He wound up pleading no contest to 1 count of reckless conduct. They suspended his certification for a time, and I guess eventually the Georgia Peace Officer Standards and Training Council reinstated his certification. And so then he just kind of went on a tear in terms of disciplining officers who he felt he had beef with. It says that he, at some point, he fired about 27 different officers over in Clayton County. That's where this occurred. Clayton County, somewhere in Georgia. He fired 27 employees, and then he took out an arrest warrant on somebody else who had been emailing coworkers and saying he was evil and toxic. Clearly he's the wrong one. I talk all the time about contempt of cop, right? If you piss one off. And so, when I say contempt of cop, I don't just mean street cops. I mean, piss off a watch commander, right? Piss off the watch commander, and you find your ass on morning watch working in an undesirable part of the division. Or piss off a captain, and you'll find yourself, assigned to another division. They say they can't do this anymore. We used to talk about, you get freeway therapy. In other words, you get assigned to a division way, way far away from where you live. So that's the kind of retribution, retaliation stuff that goes on if you piss off the wrong people. For those of you who may be wondering what's going on, I think you can see my G-Pup. He's He's playing around right now, and that was his little tail. That wasn't me. That was his little tail you saw. I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, so don't be asking me no funny questions. No funny questions later. But anyway, yeah, so this sheriff over there in Clayton County, is that what I said? Clayton County? Yeah, so you make him mad, and yeah, he will do nasty things to you. So he's had a few people fired, lots of people fired. He's had some folks arrested. And so he did have one of his deputies and the guy's wife as well arrested for something, um, violation of oath, sending emails to him that he thought were disparaging, and their court case is still pending. So um, I guess, note to self, if you're a deputy over there in Clayton County and you work for Sheriff Hill, you already know. You already know. Um, yeah, be careful. Now, LAPD Police Chief Charlie Beck has been chosen as the interim superintendent over in Chicago. Now, I don't know this to be true. I'm just guessing. You know, uh, Mayor Lightfoot brought him in as the interim, and will it be easy for her to just slide him on in as, the real deal superintendent somewhere down the road, 48 hours after you guys quit paying attention? I guess we'll see. I've had a conversation with some family there in Chicago, not family blood, but family you, about, you know, Charlie Beck being over there and what you might expect. So he's got his first test. Now, he was made interim on November the 8th. And then just a few days later, November 13th, there was an incident. This incident involved a lady by the name of Martina Stanley. She's 32 years old. And the way the story goes, it says that she was attempting to communicate, and that's kind of, you know, their word. She was attempting to communicate with an officer or officers that were in an SUV. And this was in the 2000 block of East 71st Street. I don't know if that means anything to you, Chicago family. 2000 block East 71st Street. I don't know anything about that area, but she was attempting to communicate with the officers. And now one of the officers got behind the wheel of the car and started it up and accelerated in the direction of Martina Stanley and pretty much ran her over. And in so doing, she suffered some pretty significant injuries. Her head struck the ground, and she's in a bad way. Now, it's reported that Martina Stanley has some mental health issues and is bipolar. It's also reported that, she was known by folks in the area. And it's believed that the officers violated guidelines in dealing with her. So let's see what Charlie Beck, we know what he thinks about officers who shoot folks. We'll see what he has to say about officers who run folks over. Keep your ear to the ground, Chicago. The two guards that were involved in that whole Jeffrey Epstein situation, Tova Noel, she's 31, and Michael Thomas, 41. Well, they were just taken into custody and charged by a federal grand jury with conspiracy and filing false records. Now, filing the false records has to do with the whole, they lied about when they were doing checks on Jeffrey Epstein, who allegedly, reportedly committed suicide. They were supposed to be checking on him, I believe, every 30 minutes. And sounds like Sister Girl Nova, sounds like she just left, or Tova, sounds like she just left her post and went somewhere. Sounds to me like this was graveyard morning watch, right? When they went missing, the guards, they weren't checking on him like they were supposed to. And then when they came back from where, I don't know, but when they came back at 6 a.m, allegedly Jeffrey was hanging because he had fashioned together something that allowed him to commit suicide, allegedly, tied up some bed linen or some pieces of cloth. I don't know. Anyway, they messed up. And so, I don't know, there's a lot of conspiracy theories about, did he kill himself or did someone else kill him, blah, blah, blah. Um, I'm thinking, that maybe on morning watch, because a lot of shenanigans go on morning watch. There's not a lot of people out watching. There's not a lot of supervision. The higher ups are not there. Maybe that's just how those guards got down. Maybe they just routinely didn't do their job, were derelict in their duties, and would often take off and go somewhere and be someplace else. And it's never a problem until it's a problem. I don't know if that was the case here or not, but what we do know is that they falsified the logs. Evidently, they got together to do it, conspiracy. And so they took this to a grand jury. The grand jury said, yeah, and they've been charged. Both have been released on bond, $100,000 they were able to pay. I wonder, did they have that kind of money, or did the police union association for the guards over there help them with that? I don't know. It doesn't say. But anyway, it's alleged that they repeatedly failed to do required counts, checks, if you will, on prisoners during their watch. And so, but for that, I guess Jeffrey would still be here. I don't know. Over in Indiana, there was an off-duty police officer who has lost his job because he lost his damn mind. He was working security, off-duty. I don't know how you guys let these off-duty gigs. I mean, I know that they're easy. I've done them, right? I get it. It's not a problem till it's a problem. He's working off-duty at Nordstrom's Rack. And so now he didn't let this $20 an hour job or whatever it is they were paying him mess up his good, real job. He confronted, and he's a white guy, he confronted a couple of brothers who were in the parking lot. And he said they were acting suspicious because, if two black men sit in a car in a parking lot at a mall, that could be suspicious, right? And so he confronted these two guys and he wanted to see their ID. And they were like, why? What do you want to see my ID for? And he says, because I can, because I said so. And, by and large, when a police officer says that to somebody who looks like you and I, that's just a pretext. That's just some bullshit. And what you need to really understand is that things are about to go sideways and they're about to put a case on you some kind of way, because when they ask you for your ID and you don't show it, the next thing is you're resisting. You're interfering with whatever bullshit or investigation, right? Whatever bullshit investigation they are conducting. So in this case, oh boy, he's used this and it's worked for him time and time again. You look suspicious. I'm conducting an investigation into suspicious activity and I need to see your ID. And so this time, yeah, not so much, because they requested a supervisor, which I suggest you always do. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get one, but I suggest you ask for a supervisor just to get it on record. And he said that I think he denied their request for a supervisor. So somehow, some way, they survived the encounter. And once it got over to the constable, the chief constable over in Lawrence Township, his name is Terry Burns. They said within 2 hours of the chief constable looking at the video from this off-duty jackass, Daryl Jones, Lawrence Township Deputy Constable Daryl Jones. Well, once the chief constable, Terry Burns, took a look at the video 2 hours later, he was like, dude, it's a wrap. I need you gone. So he fired him. And so good for him. Good for him. It doesn't always work out that way, right? So this time it worked out. Now, over in Fort Worth, this is a story that's been going on for some time. Earlier in the year, in May, the Fort Worth police chief, brother man named Joel Fitzgerald, he lost his job. And you guys probably heard me talking about it because I thought it was kind of funny. He's had a lot of issues, Chief Joel Fitzgerald. He was vying for the position over in Baltimore for the commissioner's spot. And there was a lot of back and forth. And you know what's going on with the former mayor over there, Marilyn Pugh. She stubbed her toe a little bit. So she was trying to bring in Chief Joel Fitzgerald as the commissioner. And the powers that be over there was like, hold up, sister girl, let's slow your roll. They had some questions about his resume, and they were wondering why she was trying to push this thing through. And then they found out that he lied, he exaggerated on his resume and some of the stuff that he said he did. He said he was amazing and the sun often shines out of his nether regions, and then they found out not so much. So he withdrew his name. Now, he withdrew his name, and he said the reason he withdrew his name, and I don't doubt that this may not have had something to do with it, but he has a son who was very sick, and I believe his son needed some sort of brain surgery. So he said, you know what, I'm just going to concentrate on my family. He withdrew his name. And then, everything that happened after that with that whole commissioner situation and the mayor over there. So he got into it. Chief Joel Fitzgerald got into it at what I call police prom week in DC. They were having the national annual memorial situation that they have. And Joel Fitzgerald got into it with somebody from the police union because they said that he was some kind of way a member of the police union, but he was ineligible. And so they kicked him off, and he got mad, and the union president got mad. And so they almost had a fight at police prom week. And so that, in addition to everything else he was doing, and maybe Fort Worth city manager was just mad at him for trying to go over to Baltimore. I don't know. But they fired him. And so now he's in court. He's in litigation. Chief Joel Fitzgerald is in litigation. And he says that, he didn't deserve to be fired. Chief Joel Fitzgerald says the real reason that he was fired is because they were retaliating against him. He was just about to go and meet with the FBI regarding some malfeasance going on over there on that department, some shenanigans, and he was about to blow the whistle. And 30 minutes before his scheduled meeting to blow the whistle, they fired him. That's what Chief Joel Fitzgerald says. The city manager and the Texas Workforce Commission are not in agreement. They're not in agreement. Take that back. The Texas Workforce Commission says that, well, let me see. Are they, either they're saying he committed misconduct or he didn't commit misconduct, one or the other. Don't judge me. My notes are a little scrambled on this. But at the end of the day, there's two versions. There's a he said and a they said. And the city manager over there, David Cook, is the one who fired him. And he says, David Cook says, it was in the best interest of the community after examining the totality of situations involving Joe Fitzgerald. Now, listen, there's some stuff that, was following this guy around, because before he was at Fort Worth, he was over in Allentown. He was a police chief over there from December 2013 to October 2015. Now, I'm just wondering, why does this dude want to be in charge somewhere, anywhere? I mean, I think he's 48, so I get that he's still young, but I mean, sheesh, have a seat, sir. Enjoy, life, right? He was over in Allentown, and while he was over there, there was some stuff that went on. He has a son who was a detention officer, and somehow the son got caught up with some police officers, and they wound up arresting him because he had a gun, and they said he pointed it at him, and he said he thought that they were, maybe former inmates at the facility where he worked as a corrections officer, because they were kind of tailgating him, and he got nervous, and so he pulled out his gun, and anyway, they wound up arresting him, and that was a whole big to-do. So there's lots of little things going on with Chief Joel Fitzgerald. And I'm just thinking that maybe some of that has to do with, why they let him go. And then, the other notable thing that he was involved in over there on the Fort Worth Police Department involves that lady by the name of Jacqueline Craig. Remember, Jacqueline Craig is the Black woman who had called the police because her white neighbor had grabbed her little boy. I think he was 7 or 9, her 7-year-old son. The neighbor grabbed the 7-year-old son and choked him because the neighbor said he was littering or something. So Jacqueline Craig called the police. Police come out, and they tell her, yeah, well, good for the neighbor for choking the shit out of your son. And then the police show up, and they side with the neighbor and wound up arresting Jacqueline and her daughter, because her daughter started filming everything, and it was just a mess. And there was a lawsuit. All of this under Chief Joel Fitzgerald over there in Fort Worth. And when all of that was going on, the officer who's involved, his name is William Martin, and I imagine he's probably still on the job because he was only suspended um, for 10 days for that whole situation, that whole over escalation, if you will, that unnecessary use of force with Jacqueline Craig and her daughter. He was suspended for 10 days. And, folks over there were kind of hot about that and thought that that was like a slap on the wrist. It was insulting. And now, you know, Chief says, well, we dropped the ball big time, or his words, on the Jacqueline Craig situation that happened back in December 2016. So, I don't know if he's saying that he dropped the ball because he's looking for the community to rally behind him because he really wants his job back. He says that his reputation is ruined. He can't get work. And, I understand, having been fired as a chief, having someone say they've lost confidence in you, which is kind of what his officers did before they fired him, doesn't look good on your resume. I don't know if some of this is self-inflicted. I don't know if they're doing this because he's a Black man. I don't know. I know it's a lot. And I guess, we'll just have to wait and see, and I'll share a link with you. Just have to wait and see what the courts decide in terms of his termination, because the other thing that's going on over at Fort Worth is they have an interim police chief, and they are wanting to hire someone full-time. And one of the things that Joel Fitzgerald is trying to prevent them from doing is hiring someone full-time, because he recognizes and understands that if they hire a police chief full-time, then any possibility of him getting his job back is over. So he's trying to prevent them from hiring. He's trying to prevent them from hiring anyone. So that's part and parcel of why the litigation is going on over there. So I'll keep you posted. I'll keep my ear to the ground, and I'll let you know what they ultimately say. Like I said, I don't know if this is a situation of, if this is a racial, I don't necessarily want to make this about race, because I don't know that it is. It might just be that, knuckleheads come in all ranks. And so maybe Chief Fitzgerald is a knucklehead. I don't know. We'll see. I'll keep you posted. So that's that. Now, let's see. What else do I want to share with you? I talked about this before. There was a no-knock warrant that had been served, and this was in, let me see, I want to say Texas as well. There was a couple that was killed. Let me look and continue to read through this until I figure out exactly where this is. But there was a no-knock warrant that had been issued, and there was this couple that was killed. Well, there's a 9-count indictment out with regards to these two officers. The two people that were charged are Gerald Goins, and he is, I think, 55 years old, and his partner, Stephen Bryant, was the other narcotics officer. And so what happened is that Gerald Goins falsified an affidavit for a no-knock warrant. He said that there was a location where he had an informant that didn't exist, who had told him that there were drugs being sold. There was a citizen, a lady, civilian, that he had called 911 and say her daughter somehow was up in that house. She was actually looking through a window watching her daughter use drugs with this couple. And so that was what was used in the affidavit that he presented to the judge. Gerald Goins presented to the judge along with his partner, Stephen Bryant. And so the judge issued a no-knock warrant. In other words, they didn't have to announce themselves. They could just go and tear the damn door down and go in. And so that's what they did. And in so doing, there was a big gun battle. Killed in the gun battle were Regina Nicholas and Dennis Tuttle. They were killed. They were the homeowners. They were the people that lived there. And factually, they weren't involved in any kind of cocaine or heroin use or sales. It was all something that was fabricated. And why Gerald Goins even made that up in the first place is a mystery to me. But he's been charged with 7 counts and his partner, Stephen Bryant, has been charged with one count of falsifying records because he acquiesced the foolishness. And this resulted in the district attorney and prosecutors over there in Harris County. I believe this is in Texas. I'll share the link and you can take a look and figure out where this was because I can't. But there were, according to the article, there were about, see, 14,000 cases involving these two narcotics officers. So clearly they, probably had been working in narcotics unit for many, many years, had been arresting a whole lot of folks, them and other officers. And so 14,000 cases right now are being reviewed. And then dozens of other cases over in Harris County have been dismissed. So maybe, if you got family over in Harris County who may have the name Gerald Goins or Stephen Bryant on any kind of paperwork, somebody might have a get out of jail free card under the Christmas tree. So anyway, I share names with you because, it's always nice to know when officers are involved in wrongdoing. It does make it very difficult for prosecutors to go after anyone else who's been charged with an offense by those officers because they have no credibility. And so this is true of a couple of officers over in Gardena who have just been convicted of same thing, misconduct, illegal activity. These two officers, let me see. These two officers are from the Gardena here in California. Gardena police officers, they've been convicted of illegal gun dealing and selling guns to felons. And so the way the story goes is one of the officers, his name is Carlos Miguel Fernandez. He's 44, lived in Norwalk. And the other one is Edward Yashiro Arao, Arao. Sounds like an Asian name. He's 49 years old and he lives in Eastville. And both of these guys have 17 years on the job with Gardena. Well, they did before they got fired and convicted. They were placed on administrative leave last year when they found out that these two guys, what they did, the scam was the guy, Edward Yashiro Aro, he was the CEO of some kind of a gun business. And so because they were police officers, they had figured out that they could buy weapons that citizens could not really purchase the same way. They took advantage of their position as law enforcement officers and they were able to buy these guns and then they would sell them. And the way they would sell them is Carlos would sell it to Edward Yashiro Aro, his business. And then his business would in turn put something up on Instagram. Instagram? They're selling guns on Instagram? I thought only foolishness happened on Craigslist. But anyway, they would put these guns up for sale on Instagram. And so they got caught selling them, illegally. They've been charged with conspiracy, selling firearms to convicted felons, making a false statement about gun sales, and then falsifying federal licensing paperwork. So guilty, convicted, yeah, found guilty. I guess next is for them to be sentenced. So yeah, anyway, again, the story goes like this. They purchase off-roster guns, whatever that means, guns that are not available for sale to the public, but can be purchased by law enforcement officers. And most of these were 38 caliber handguns. So again, they would buy these guns and then they'd put them up for sale on Instagram and then they would sell them to convicted felons in some instances. So yeah, a couple of openings on Gardena Police Department. Anyway, yeah, police are the gift that keep on giving. So, oh, Jacob, thank you for that. I appreciate the kind words, Jacob. I'll just leave that between you, me, and this thread. But thank you. I appreciate that. So that's it, family. I'm gonna go back in for a little more news. And thank you for stopping by. Share this on your timeline. And if you have any questions, any concerns, or anything you want me to pontificate on, visit my website, hit the contact button there, or just go Sergeant Dorsey Speaks at Gmail, and we can chop it up there. For the people that I talked about in the beginning, you know who you are. Thank you for being the first ones through the door. Send me your mailing address, and I just want to send you a thank you for being so supportive. And until next week, family, be good and be safe.